I saw the entire world at Prudential, and I learned how to promote financial services, foundation work, so philanthropic work, uh, how to promote being a good employee, group insurance stuff, like all kinds of new things, and a lot about securing the bag, right? I was really sad after losing my job. I loved what I did. Um,
But take us there, because I think that's really important for people to understand, and is why I wanted to have these conversations, because it's like when people are on the other side of their grief and these big transitions, they're like, oh yeah, this happened, and then I'm over here. But it's not the messy middle, right? Like that moment, I know you've told me before, but if you could share, just you were blindsided by this.
yes. So on September 9th, 2017, I traveled from New York City to Newark, New Jersey with a suitcase because I had my schedule demanded that I be on a train to Washington, D.C., my second home, because that's what I call D.C. But when I got to work, I was called to the 6th floor. Now, I've worked at the company for nearly 20 years. I know what that call means. It's either two things. One, they're making a big change in the company and they want you to help them direct the change. Or two, they're letting you go. I will tell you that I walked down there thinking they were making a big change because I had a good relationship, I thought, with my new supervisor. He was allowing and signing checks for me to go places and do things and be on boards. And so when he delivered to me that my job had been eliminated, I was completely blindsided. And I had to do everything that I could not to cry because this situation was me as a Black woman sitting across from a young white man. And all of the things, all of the isms were right here. Racism, elitism, nepotism. Like, all I could think of is how I had bust my ass to get to that point. And this individual sitting on the other hand had his handed to him. And yet he had the power and the interest, because he was giddy, okay, to snatch my livelihood away. All I could think of was my children, because my children were still in college and I was the primary breadwinner in my home. And all I could think about was, how is it going to pay my bills? Like I went straight there. Like, what am I going to do? And also it hurt because I'm an overachiever. I got skipped in the third. I went from the 2nd grade to the 4th grade. I went to college when I was 16. I speak languages. Anything that I want to do, I'm willing to go learn. So I had never failed, other than, I always make people laugh with this, other than with my marriage, and that's okay.
That's okay.
we weren't ready for marriage, so I don't hold it against him either. Mm-hmm. But I had never lost a job before. And so it was really hard to manage. And I took to my bed. I came home and got in my bed and put the covers over my head and probably cried for months. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk to people, pretty much put my phone on block.
I know you lost your job, but what else was that? What else was there? What was the grief of the loss? What did it mean to you?
what losing my job meant that the life that I was living before was gone, just completely gone. It also made me think about it made me question who I was and what I was doing, because here I thought I was excellent at what I was doing, and arbitrarily I was put out to pasture. So it made me question everything that I believed about myself. And then I would also tell you, at that same time, I was in a long-term relationship, and that fell apart as well. So I wanted to crawl under the floor. I wanted to disappear because I couldn't handle it all. It was too much pain at one time. But I'm a praying woman. And also, I raised my children great, because one day my daughter came in my room. So that was 7 years ago. She was about 25. She came in my room and she said to me, "You're not going to like what I have to say." And so I said, "Well, go slow, because I'm fragile." And she said, "Can you find my mother?" She said, "Because my mother's a fighter. I don't know who you are." I had a few choice words for her and asked her to leave my room. And then I cried some more. But I got up. And that day changed my life, because I decided that I did have a fight in me. And I knew that there was more for me to offer the world. I just wasn't sure what it would be. And so I started begging God to help me. And I'll be honest, I was petitioning God to help me figure out what to do next. I was calling on my faith to help me move forward. And I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And it was almost as if the mirror started talking to me and said, "Hey, you." And I'm like, you, I'm talking to you. You know you're free? And it was like, I know, you don't know what that is, because you've never been free before. But you're free to do whatever it is that you want right now. Fly. Spread your wings. Fly. And so, girl, I ran and got in the shower, right? And I decided, okay, I'm gonna figure something out. And I went on a job interview, right? Because I still wasn't quite sure. I was running after that money, right? I made a very great salary, and I was still running after that money. And so I went on a job interview, but it was probably way too early for me to go and sit before a panel of people asking me probing questions, because when I got to the last individual, I decided I didn't want to work there anymore. And I kind of stopped the interview right while they were talking. I think they thought I was crazy, right? And I got up and said, "I don't want to do this. Thank you very much for your time."
Y'all have to know, Dawn, to know that this is the 100% truth.
Yes. And I disappeared under the table. You know, in New York, we don't wear pumps in the street. So I disappeared under the table. I put my sneakers on. I got up and I left that lady sitting right in that room. And I left. I got outside. I got outside and I was on 6th Avenue. I'll never forget it. I threw my pumps. I don't know where they are. And I said to God, "You take care of babies and fools. I'm no baby. But I want to leave myself to you, because I can't do that." And sure enough, I got home that very day, turned on the news because I'm a PR person. So the news is my favorite channel. Turn on the news, and girl, I'm going to tell you about Jesus. The announcer said, next up, Styles P opens juice bar in Westchester. And I said, juice bar? I could do that. I really could do a juice bar. And, we got DVR. So I kept running it back, trying to understand what was his reasoning for it. I was looking at his decor, all of that. And I'm like, okay, God, I could do that. Now, where's going to go at? Because that's how I talk to Jesus. Where's going to go? And again, here go that small voice again in my ear, told me to go outside on Guy Brewer Boulevard, which is not far from where I live. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I still felt a little weird about hearing voices, right? But I'm an obedient chick, okay? and what did I have to lose, right? What did I have to lose to go kind of follow the voice, right? So I asked Jade to come with me because she was home. And I asked her to come with me around the corner to see, what this voice was telling me to see. And we went around that corner and I looked to the right, right? I looked to the right and I didn't see anything. And the scripture says, look up, right? So I look to the right and I look up and I don't see anything. And I would tell you right then and there, I felt like running in the street and letting the bus hit me. I'll be honest, because I felt crazy. I felt like I really am crazy. I'm hearing voices. Next thing they're going to put me in a white jacket. Okay. But my daughter, that same sage individual that I raised, said to me, Mommy, you got us out here. You got to look to the left and the right. Now, she didn't know what I was looking for, but she could see that I was falling apart in front of her eyes. Okay. And so I put my head down and I said a quick prayer. Lord, don't make me a fool in front of my child. Like I could take everything else, but I'm not sure I can handle looking like a fool in front of my daughter because I'm her role model. She's watching everything I do. And then I put my head up and I swung it to the right. And that's when I saw the awning that changed my entire life. That awning said, DK Upholstery. My name is Dawn Kelly. And that store is where the Nourish spot was established. Okay. And I am so proud of what we accomplished. But I got to tell you a little bit more about that awning. So in 2018, Christmas time, I usually close for the week of Christmas. And so I'm sitting there just marveling over the fact that Dawn Kelly, has her own restaurant. And we've been in business now for a full year. And I'm just, tears are streaming out my face because I'm all alone. I'm about to lock up. I'm just like, I'm so grateful. And I'm just telling God, thank you. And here comes that voice again. Mm-hmm. And I hear it saying, hey, you know what upholstery means? And I'm like, upholstery? Like that's when you remake, you make over. The awning foretold my life. The awning said, Dawn Kelly made over.
I love that.
And I would tell you from that moment, even though business is challenging some days, I always knew that then I was on the right track, and what I had set out to do to help my community become more healthy, because we are in a food desert, also called a food swamp, was the right thing. And it was a blessing of what had happened to me, right? I could now turn it around and say that God had a bigger plan for me. I just didn't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to be obedient to that voice, right? And just keep walking. Now, I didn't know how to run a business at all. I mean, at all. uh when you work for a company, you learn some things, but I was so far up the food chain, I didn't really have to be concerned with the profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, price strategies. I didn't have to learn that. I didn't have to know that. But I knew once I got in business, I needed to learn that quick. And so I invested in education. I paid $100 to go to a business essentials class that's given by the Queens Economic Development Corporation. And that just kind of like whet my imagination, right? Like it kind of gave me just the basic terms, introduced me to a new entrepreneur community, right? Because I'm sure you're learning entrepreneurship can be lonely sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to have other entrepreneurs that you could talk to, that you can brainstorm with, right? And so that was wonderful. But all it did was give me the bare necessities, and I could be dangerous, but not that, but not as profitable and effective and efficient that I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I took another class with an organization called Interrise, and that was it was called Streetwise MBA. Now this class I didn't have to pay in terms of a monetary fee, but I did have to pay with my time and my effort. And I would tell you, I'm a seasoned woman. I'm older than most. And so it was very, very challenging. So much so, darling, that I even thought about giving up, because, again, all of these terms were foreign to me, and trying to learn them and run the business, some days it became unwieldy. Mm-hmm. But I just kept praying and kept persevering, and I got out, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I still didn't know enough, right? I didn't know enough. And because I didn't feel, like when you know what you're doing, you feel confident in your shoes. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel confident. And I would say also, I knew that there was one more program that was the cream of the crop. And if I could get in there and finish, then I would feel like I had the tools and skills and strategies and community that would definitely bolster me and affirm me. And so I applied for the Goldman Sachs 10K SB program, and I was accepted. And again, you talking about difficult? Oh my goodness, there were days when I cried. But I never gave up. And I think it was January, February of 2022, I graduated that program. And now I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
and it helped me actually codify my goals, right? Like, and believe that it was okay to write down my dreams, right? And I would tell you that many of those dreams that I wrote down, they're coming true. Good, they're coming true.
They are. It's so fun to watch. It's so fun to watch. And I just want to, because the thing is that, like, life is never a straight line. There's always going to be curveballs thrown. But I don't know of a curveball bigger than the pandemic, right? Oh. So you're only just a few years in business, probably just feeling like you're just catching your stride at that point. And then here go the pandemic in the epicenter of the epicenter, because Queens was the epicenter for a very long time.
Yes.
Of the epicenter, you know?
Yes.
So it's now we can kind of summarize it moving, like looking back, but I do remember our conversation of when you were getting your wholesale food. So they shut you guys down. Let's first explain that. They shut you all down for how long? How long was that?
So honestly, I was never shut down.
Okay, that's right. Okay, that's right. You could do takeout.
Yes. So what happened was, now luckily for us, we were already on the food delivery apps. We were on the Grubhub and the DoorDash and the Uber Eats of the world. So we didn't have that kind of hurdle to jump over. Mm-hmm. That's really what put a lot of businesses out of business, because they did not pivot quickly enough to get on the food delivery apps. Mm-hmm. And so I would tell you that you also were very helpful to me, because there were days in which I was online for hours waiting to get in to purchase the food, because I was the one going to get it. You know, we were still a young business. I didn't have the money or the team to send somebody else to do it. So I was wearing every hat. Gladly, though, I will tell you that I was happy to do it. But not during COVID, because everything was difficult. Like, you stand online for 2 hours. Then when you get in the store, you can't find the things you need because of the whole problem with supply and demand. Then you get online to pay for it, and it takes forever. I mean, there were days when I would get to my store so late that I would be in tears, and I would go on to my social media in tears and say, you know, I'm sorry, but we're open now. And one day you called me and you said, keep documenting your story. Keep showing people what you're going through. And I appreciated that. And I did. Every single day.
Every day.
I told people what was happening at the Nourish spot. And they responded. Mm-hmm. They showed up. They bought gift cards, digital gift cards. And not only did they buy digital gift cards, they bought digital gift cards and told me it wasn't for them, for me to give it away. People that I didn't even know. They were getting my phone number through Instagram and calling me and say, I saw you on Instagram and I want to buy a $200 digital gift card, and anybody that comes to the door, you could use it. That helped us. In addition, we bought a handheld POS system so we could go to the door and take people's orders because we couldn't let them in anymore. We made our staff wear masks, right? And they were already wearing gloves, right? Because you can't, in New York City, you can't touch people's food without gloves. We changed our hours, because when it used to be like everybody out in the streets became ghost towns, okay? And so, you know, when we used to be open at 8:00 and close at 7, I had to change my hours to 9 to 6, which we still are, 9:30 to 6, which we still are doing those right now, because COVID is not over, no matter what these people try to tell us. And we kind of changed the menu a little bit, right, to get more things in store that would help fight the virus. So we started ordering wheatgrass and ginger and turmeric, because all the medical professionals were telling the world, eat your fruits and vegetables. And so, what am I selling? Fresh fruits and vegetables. So, in hindsight, I would say the COVID was good for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was challenging, but it was really good for us.
I mean, I remember those dark, dark days where it was just, I mean, I just, just being in New York, just remember how feeling like, all right, this might be just like a few months. But then seeing like that, there was a moment there where it was like, this might be the new normal. Oh my God, it might never change. Like, you remember those times when it was just like, oh my God, this actually might never get better. And it was just so scary. And
it's true.
Yeah. And I remember us talking through those times, but then it just felt like in 2021 specifically, like you started getting grant after grant after grant, like you were winning this and you're winning that. Like it was one thing after another that kept happening.
Yes. And again, I want to credit you. I want to thank you for telling me to document my story. No, because I was keeping track. I was keeping track of what was going on. And so when the grant opportunities surfaced, they wanted to know what had been transpiring during the beginning of COVID, when it began. And I had the information right in my phone. And so and my background in PR also helped, right? Me to craft the narrative. And so I used my story, the one that I was documenting every day, and my skills as a communications executive, and I wrote grants. And I would tell you this, when I first started the business, we didn't really talk about this, but when I first started the business, I went looking for grants, right? I went looking for money at the bank. I gotta laugh because I was asking people, New York City Small Business Services, the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, anybody that would talk to me. I'm like, you got some grant money? And they would look at me like I had three heads. Like, what are you talking about? No grants, you better go get a loan. And then I went to the bank and they were like, loan, girl, please. Okay. And so I had to make the decision to invest in myself. And so I would say, the job elimination gave me a severance package. So I was able to use my severance package to start my business, right? But here we are now in 2021. Well, actually 2020, late 2020 is when it first started. Companies, and then I forgot the intersection of the racial tension.
Yes, right, exactly.
That was going on with George Floyd, right? And some of the other things that were going on around Breonna Taylor, right? Companies started to say, okay, we want to be supportive of people of color and Black people. And so grant opportunities started to, show up. And I'm like, why not? The best. One of the things I live my life by is why not me? Right? Why not me? So I applied and I took my time with my narrative and I told my true story. And the first grant I got was a $62,000 grant from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I got a grant from Motorola. Got a grant from Beyonce.
Yeah.
I forgot that. And wait, hold on. Not only did I get a grant from Beyonce and the NAACP, but she put me on her page. Oh. My daughter woke up and said she was screaming, "Mommy!" Yeah, on Beyonce's page. Listen, it don't get no better than that, okay? So it's just been honestly wonderful. One thing that I would say to anybody that's thinking about starting their own business, yeah, it's daunting. I'm not going to lie, but do it, and do it afraid, because that adrenaline will either make or break you, right? But if you're a person, that perseveres, if you're a person that has faith, if you're a person that's determined, right? And you're goal oriented, you're gonna win. Listen, you're gonna win.
What do you tell that woman who was in the bed, who didn't want to get out the bed? Like, what are the habits she had to change? What are the mindset, like what's the mindset shift she needed to have to be you now?
One is, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to cry, but give it a time limit. Okay? So that's the first. You know, you get a day or you get 3 days. You don't get 2 months. But I would say this. I have been working nonstop other than when I had my children, right? I have been working nonstop, really, since I was like 18 years old. And so I probably needed the rest, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I was crying, probably some of it was from exhaustion, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because you really don't realize, like, really how tired you are, right? So some of those tears were from exhaustion. So that would be the first thing, you know, cry, but give it a time limit. And second, never forget who you are, right? Prudential didn't make me. And for a little moment, for a little bit of time, I gave that man too much power because he didn't make me. I had more influence and more knowledge in my pinky, okay? And so I had to remember who I was and whose I was. Mm-hmm. And God don't let me fail, right? Like he just doesn't. There's always a light by that dark tunnel. And so I just needed to focus towards the light, right? And stop thinking so negatively. I had to remember that I was free. And that's another thing, especially for Black women. We're the mules of the world. We have been carrying this country and everybody in it forever. I mean, even our breasts weren't our own. Okay? We had to feed other people's babies before we fed ours. And so I had to realize that I was free to do me. And I think that's, and also that rest is revolutionary. Okay? And so I had to give myself permission to rest and not think about all the things that I should be doing, because I shouldn't be doing nothing but sleeping, okay, until I finish resting. And two, that it's my life and I get to do with it what I wish, no matter what anybody has to say. And that took some getting used to. But girl, now I'm used to it.
It's good to you. What is that freedom? Explain it. Like, what does that mean? Because that's something I'm defining for myself right now. Is like, what does, I would go to my therapist and she's like, a few years ago, she was like, after I went a few times, right? She was like, you use the word freedom a lot. Like, what is that about? Like, what does that mean? Because I kept on saying, I just want to be free. I just want to be free of this and free of that and free of this. And, what does that mean to you?
I realized that we carry a lot of trauma, especially us Black girls. Carry a lot of trauma. Carry our mama's trauma. Carry our mama's trauma, our grandmama's trauma. Okay. And so freedom for me means there are no rules other than the ones I make and the ones I follow that God dictated. Okay. There's no one pulling my strings but me. Okay. I have the final say. Okay. I get to decide what my world, my day, my moment looks like. And so freedom meant that I could dream as broadly as I could, and I could do whatever it is I want.
The last thing is a segment. It's called Act Up, or by initials, ACT, my initials. So somebody right now in this moment is feeling, it's an internal feeling before you actually move, right? So right. Having this feeling where they're just out of alignment, just whatever it is, it's just not right. What do you tell them? What should be the first things that they really should do?
Well, the first thing, if there's someone that believes in a higher power, I would definitely say meditate, pray, right? But the other thing I would say is get you a notebook and write down what's happening, right? You don't have to tell nobody, right? Because I think sometimes we feel like we got to go tell somebody. You don't have to tell anybody. You could write it down. So get it out of you onto some paper, right? And once you have it on the paper, then figure out how to make whatever that is happen, okay? And I think that's one of the problems with all of us, but especially Black women, right? We don't give ourselves that latitude. And we don't really, we say we dream, but I don't think we really dream that expansive dream that we should. So one of the things, and I need to put it on the t-shirt, is I always say dream loud, okay? Don't dream those little dumb dreams. And I'm sorry when I say dumb dreams, like, I need to get a new bag. Anybody can get a new bag, okay? Mm-hmm. You want to be the proprietor that makes the bags. That's what you want, okay? dream the outlandish dream.
So now people have witnessed the conversations that we have on the phone and how you talk to me. So before I left my job, I know people thought, like, when it happened or whatever, a lot of people were like, oh, this is just like I just made the decision yesterday. But you and a few others knew that we had been talking about this for a minute. And to the point where Don was like, have you done it yet? Can I call this person? Can I? I won't tell him what you said to me when I was like, I'm just thinking about it, but I'm just not sure yet. You got to cursing, and then you started talking to me about Jesus. But yes. Like, you were the person you've always been that person since, like, it's just, when you feel like God put this person in your life, you are one of those people for me that I know. Knowing you makes me know is like reinforcement that God is real.
Yes.
Right? Because of just how you have the woman that you have been in my life. You, literally, I got somebody who's going to call you. Can I go? I was like, wait a minute, Doe, wait a minute. I hadn't quit yet. Wait a minute. But you got me money after, which was a big concern of mine because I quit with no job. It got me a contract right out the gate. Saying I appreciate you, it's going to make me cry. But saying I appreciate you doesn't even do it justice, Dawn.
Like, well, I love you.
I want you
to know. I want you to know, we started this. I said I collect people. And I would tell you that you have always been kind to me. And that's all I look for in people is kindness. When I meet somebody, I'm not looking for anything from them but their friendship, right? You have a beautiful open face and you're kind. And that's the kind of people that I want to be around. I want to be around kind people. And I am, what's the word? It gives me great joy to help my friends. Come on. Like, I have a girlfriend in DC, and I always say to her, because she calls me her tormentor, right? Mm-hmm. Not her mentor, her tormentor, right? Because she's like, I'm always pushing her. And I would tell you this, it's no fun to be the only one. Mm-hmm. And that's how I found myself when I was at Prudential. Oftentimes, I was the only one, and it was just like, there's no fun. Where's my friends? I need my friends. And so I'm always going to push my friends, not to get no big job, but to go after their dreams. Okay. So if your dream is a big job, I'm going to push you to do that. Okay. But if your dream is to be an artist, I'm going to push you to do that. Okay. Whatever it is you tell me you want in life. Okay. My job as your friend is to help you get it. Okay. And not because you're going to help me do anything. It's only because I want to see a smile on your face. And when it's time to go on vacation, I want us to go together.
And we're overdue for our champagne, by the way.
Yes, we are. We are. So I just want to tell you,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for this.